Hi YouTube, alright, this is my build of a Tatar bow, a Crimean Tatar style bow. I'm using the same basic design as the Sipahi, the Ottoman Turkish bows that I've been using, but I scaled up the size of the siyas. Instead of being 3 inches long, ending roughly where the nock is, they go to 4 inches long, and the Kasan is correspondingly longer as well, or at least it should be. The fact of the matter is, most of it's going to be in here, so I think just so I could squeeze 2 pieces out of 1 piece of wood, 2 siyas out of 1 piece of wood, I went ahead and I cut the Kasan a little bit short. I also didn't make all the effort in the world to taper it to a point this time. I was hoping that would create more surface for glue between the Kasan and the PVC pipe. So we'll have to see how that works out. I think it's going to be just fine. They're really lovely. I just cut the nocks now and stained the inside. So let me go ahead and heat it up and see what I can do about opening that up for business, so to speak. Once we bend it, this is going to be the belly of the bow, the side that curves back. So I'm going to go ahead and insert them onto this side using the same technique that I did before of heating just one side. Alright, due to family invasion of the kitchen, dinner time is coming up, so I'll try and make this quick. I'm relocated to the garage where I'm going to go ahead and heat the back of the bow and insert the siyas both into the pipe. Just for reference, one weighs 25 grams, the other weighs 26 grams. I could make them perfectly even, and if I were really being finicky, I should, but come on, we're working with PVC here. Let's not get too serious. This is one of the easiest things you can do. I don't know if I've shown this part yet exactly. I showed the results and the outcome and everything, but I don't know if I actually showed how I did this part. When you're only heating one side, the whole pipe isn't going to puff up, especially if you're heating it nice and gently so that the belly of the bow doesn't heat up too much as well. We just want it to get soft enough so we can insert the siya, and so that it'll conform to its curvature. We don't want it to puff up too much. If it does, well, it would probably be better just to start from scratch, but it isn't the end of the world. But as soon as you notice it starting to puff, that's the time where you should go ahead and insert the siya if it hasn't started to lose its flatness in the back. Okay, I think we're real close here, but I'll give it just another second to be sure. Let's just see what happens if I try and insert one now. Yeah. It goes, but it resists. Just a touch more heating, touch more. It's not going to slip right in. You really are going to have to force it in. That's the point, and that's a good thing. You want a lot of tension in there. And just remember, you're going to take this thing out and then cover it with glue and ram it right back in. That will take up a tiny bit of space. But that should also hold it really, really tightly. Don't be like me, though. Before you glue it, take the siyas out, taper the ends. I keep forgetting, and filing it once they're in there is a lot harder than filing it before you do it. So here it is. Just get it nice and centered, pushing it in. How easy is that, huh? So just put one end on the ground. And all I'm doing is I'm forcing it in the last tiny bit. There we go. If you wanted to, you can now grab it with some gloves didn't expect to do this outside, so I wasn't really ready. But I'll grab it with some sandpaper, and I'll do the same thing. Just pinch it here. Give more contact with the actual caisson and the Bosch area. If you can, too, now is a good time to introduce a tiny bit of reflex. If you don't, you can always do that later. So don't feel too bad. I'm only going to do the one, and then I'm going to go ahead and go eat dinner. I won't show you doing the other. I'll show you finishing what you do next. But to this point, alright, welcome back. Here we go. I've got one side in. I've got the other side in. And staring at it from end to end, they look out of alignment. That's because they are, but not because of the limbs or how they've been inserted so much as twist at the center. I knew this was going to be a slight problem, but I also knew there were some other alignment issues, all stemming from the grip area. And since we're going to reflex it so heavily, I thought, let's just not worry about it right then. Let's just go ahead and do some other stuff. Let's get everything else done, and then we'll tackle all of these problems at the same time. So now I'm going to go ahead, heat the handle, and I'm going to reflex it so we have about 9 inches of reflex. That's what we're going for. Here we go. These markings here, I measured 3 inches from each side, but then I begin the taper just inside of the 3rd inch. So the overall handle should be about 2.5 inches on either side of true center. I know once I puff it up, it's going to taper nicely into the outer limb. We're going to take care of a few alignment issues right now, and then we're going to go ahead and reflex the caisson just a tiny bit. So we may have to introduce some deflexing the limb in the bending portion. I fully expect to. Just to get that authentic shape. Although we're going to introduce as little as possible, because I want this bow to be really, really ripping fast. If you're going to pull a 60 or 70 pound bow, you might as well make it a good performing bow. Alright, it's already starting to soften up. Just as you go, I like to flex it to see you can get a good sense for how soft it's becoming. A lot of my bows are slightly out of alignment from one limb to the other, just as part of the flattening process. That's very normal. You'll just have to take care of that twist when you're forming the handle section. So don't worry too much about it. Don't get bent out of shape. Grown. Alright, so now we have the handle section. I'm going to start flattening it laterally. I like to twist it in my hand. Really, if I can, I like to use both right and left hands. That's hot, yow. I think you get a slightly different sort of taper and profile when you use the different hands. I try and make it even. Okay, once it sort of holds its shape and it looks pretty good, I'm pretty happy with that. 1 inch pipe is just my favorite for how it feels in the hand. I love the way it feels. Makes just the right size handle for me. Let's go ahead and look at those tips and see what we can do about twist. And that limb looks good. The other limb looks pretty good. All right, maybe just heating it took some of that out. Twist it around and take a look from that side. I don't know. That actually appears to be better than I thought it would. Okay, we are introducing all sorts of other twists, though, since I'm not being too careful about how I'm handling it. Okay. Let me see if I can pull it back so you can see more of what I'm doing. Just looking down it, giving it twists as I need to, making sure all 3 points, the tips and the center, are all in alignment. If they are, we're in business. If not, might need to start again. I hate to say it, but it looks pretty good. There might be some twist in there, but if it's the same type that I thought we had before, we should just be able to pull that right out and twist the center. Okay. I'd like to reflex it more. But at this stage, that's just not practical, since I'm going to be putting in some reflex. I mean, there's barely any reflex there. That's a few extra inches, maybe. I'm going to go ahead and reflex them a little bit at the caisson. We want the ultimate reflex to be almost 9 inches. Maybe 8 to 9 inches is what I'm shooting for. So let me go get the... I'm going to go get a ruler, and then we'll come back and we'll do that. All right, work continues on our Tatar bow. Here we go. We're currently standing at about 6 inches of reflex from the knock to the back, or to the back of the handle, that is the belly of the handle. Hi, Phil. And right now I'm going to go ahead with the heat gun, heat right at the caisson eye, and reflex it that extra little 1.5 inches at each of the caisson eyes. That's basically it. Hopefully we won't even have to do anything else. I'm going to just give it a try and glue them in and then string her up and see if the profile looks vaguely authentic. Oops. Again, you don't want to soften it so much that it starts to puff. You just want to be able to deform it. So focusing on the top, I hit the back with a little bit of heat and the sides with a little bit of heat. But you want to focus on the top right at the area where the caisson fades. And you want to keep that area nice and thin because that should be a bending area. Just because just because you're reflexing, it doesn't mean we don't want it to bend. There we go. Okay, it's coming. At this point, just be real careful, since you are concentrating the heat so much in one spot, not to burn it. That would sort of make all this work for nothing. Hit the sides with a little extra heat before you finish. Heat gun aside, what I like to do now is, as you bend it forward that little bit, pinch it or push inward. Do either, whichever you need to maintain a good even taper. You don't want it to puff up too much, but you also don't want it to develop a cavity. Okay. I like that. That right there is pretty authentic, pretty gorgeous. And to be honest with you, the overall effect is very much like that of a traditional bow that you'd expect to have, at least of the Ottoman style, that should be in a C shape. This is going to come a lot closer to that ideal only because of its great length. If I made a 48 or 50 inch long 3/4 inch pipe bow, I'm sure we could get to about a C shape without too much trouble. Alright, it's still straight, the reflex is good. Just going to go in. That's it. So take a look at that from the side. See, I only added just a little kink right there. But that's all it'll need. That's all it's going to need to bring it up to about 9 inches. I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other side and show you the finished bow. Alright, so when I last left you, we have just put in the reflex at the caisson section, the caisson eye right there. That looks great. So after that, since they weren't glued yet, you might even be able to go and use them without glue. I wouldn't recommend it, but you might. There's enough bearing surface that it probably should spread stress evenly enough that it won't yank itself out until you pull it really far, but go ahead and glue it. I have the hot glue gun, and all I did was I applied a bead up and down and up and down and up and down, just as thin as I could, mostly along the top and the bottom. I did that with both of them. By the way, notice this one's marked 26, this side's marked 26. This one's marked 25 because it's 25 grams, and that side's marked 25 grams, just so I don't get them confused. It's a really good tip because they're not going to be shaped the same, and you want it to fit right. So here is our heat gun. We're just going to re-soften the glue and then shove it right back in where it belongs. There it is. It's hot. And we are ready to go. Let's get that in there real quick. There you go, right back up to the point. You notice a little bit beat it up, but that's okay. Somebody had a great tip, and this is a smart one. With a little bit of water on your finger, you can just go press it down, shape it a lot easier than I was doing, and it won't stick to you. So there we go. That's just how I did it. Now let's do the exact same thing on the other side. So we'll just heat it. Okay, there we go, and again, take it, shoving it all the way back where it was before. This time barely any squished out. That's probably a good sign, means a little bit more might have gotten stuck in there. So with my still marginally wet finger, just going to go ahead and squish that down. I think that looks great. Alright. If you want, you have choices here. You can go ahead and you can either fill in these areas, or what I've mostly chosen to do is mark a line here on the bottom side to about right there and saw that portion, and then saw at an angle up to a point about there on the top. Then you can heat that and just fold it around. You've removed a portion of the back, a little triangle, and then you can fold the top in to contact the CF more fully. But at this stage, it's a done deal. It's really ready to go, and we can measure it. Let's measure the reflex, see exactly how much we induced. So I'm going to have to point this at the floor. Let's go take a look. Okay, from the ground to the back of the handle is 9 inches. That means from the knock to the back of the handle is 8 inches. That's pretty close to perfect. That's really what I was aiming for. That's not as much reflex as this might tolerate, but I don't want to try and push my luck. So let's just see what we can do with this. I have a string here for a roughly 60-inch bow. Let's just see. Let's see if it fits. It's not a good one. It's one of my oldest strings. But it's for a very similar style of bow. Apologies for the wind, but this is the best place. The lighting is nice. So I'm going to go ahead and try and string it with an old string that I have for approximately similar length bow. Whoa! Shed the string on the bottom. Yikes. There's certainly enough meat for it to bite into, so let's give it another go. There's a lot of instability already. The tiller's not even, so I'll have to fix that. And it no longer has the right shape. So 2 things, 2 strikes, I'm already out. This isn't what I wanted. And like I say, the lateral side-to-side stability is lacking. It needs to be bent pretty aggressively towards me from this side to side. There we go. Almost done. Well, side to side is perfect. The tiller is still way off. As you can see, this limb is a lot weaker than this limb. So we have to try and force this limb to work a little bit more, or better yet, just go ahead and retiller the bow. This is too, the difference in tiller is too extreme to just fix like that. Oh man, but it feels great. It feels like a 50-60 pound bow. I think once we get the tiller fixed, it's going to be wonderful. Thanks for watching.